This is the Bush League Huddle podcast. We are back from a 1 week hiatus where we are at the dog days of summer, guys, with pre camp, post draft, not much football related news. So I don't know about you guys and the rest of our listeners, but I've been locked into the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. But it's great to have you guys back. I'm Roger Emeka alongside Knack and Fab. How are we doing today, boys?
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, honestly, like you said, I'm kind of locked into NHL playoffs these days too. I haven't watched as much hockey all year. Even being a Habs fan, I think I may have caught one full game all year, and playoffs have been pretty excited. So yeah,
Who are we rooting for now that the Habs didn't make it at all and my Leafs, as per usual, got bounced in the first round as per
Uh,
usual by the
I'm
Bruins?
I'm
Who
all
who
the
are
way
you
in New
guys rooting
York,
for?
NBA and NHL. I'm rooting for the Rangers and for the Knicks. It's fun times.
Yeah, as a Raptors fan, like I'm not supposed to be a Knicks fan because believe it or not, and people don't might not realize this, but there's actually a pretty heated rivalry on the team message boards, mind you. But it's still a pretty good rivalry from when the Raptors first made the playoffs in 2000. They played the Knicks, but like I was telling my buddy about it, like I'm all in on the Knicks, man. Like the Mecca and the Rangers too, obviously, but the Mecca, New York, like there's the stars,
Yeah,
or something that pulls you in to watching
yeah.
like big time hockey and big time basketball in the
It's just,
playoffs. It's
sports is
it's
just
nuts.
better when New York teams are involved. I find, like especially major sports like
Yeah,
except for the
NBA.
Giants.
No, I was going to mention the Giants. I was going to mention. Thanks though for bringing them up.
it's the Giants. It's New
Yeah,
Jersey,
That's
anyways. It's
true.
fine.
That's true. That's
that's
true.
what we did.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind if the Oilers won, but I just don't see them having good enough goaltending to kind of go all the way. I think the stars are aligned for the Rangers. Shesterkin is playing out of his mind, and I don't know. They're going to be hard to beat four times in a playoff series, especially having only lost once so far this playoff. So
Yeah, and as of now, I think the last I checked, it
I think they were winning.
was 1-0 Rangers. 1-0 Rangers with second
Yeah,
period. So closeout game at MSG. So you will not get live updates on that game, but we hope that the Rangers pass through. At least I do. In terms of episodes that we have today, we thought it would be a really interesting time to take a step back. Uh, Again, post draft, pre camp. So I think there's a lot of burning, lingering questions that we all have regarding certain teams, and we thought it'd be interesting to kind of ask and answer, and poke around on those burning questions. But before we jump into that, we got some really good news today. This Wednesday is the schedule release for the NFL. Obviously, all the team schedules are already announced because there's NFL teams play certain teams or divisions on a rotating basis. But we're able to get a little bit of a teaser, knowing that NFL kickoff, the Thursday, the first game of the season, will have the Kansas City Chiefs being hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Any thoughts on that, guys? Are you happy with that game? Do you think there could have been a better game to kick off the season? And also, this is the fifth time in the last 8 years that the Chiefs are going to be kicking off the season.
yeah, it's wild, honestly. Look, I think if the
Are you guys
Bills
that are you guys
hadn't
that bored of the Chiefs? Where you
No, I mean, look, it
everyone
is it
was
is what it is. Like when you win, like that's what it is. You're gonna get a game, and being as good as they have been, you're gonna be a marquee matchup in week one. That being said, I think Baltimore was the correct choice. The only other choice I really saw that could have been juicy was the Bills,
Yeah,
but they kind of dismantled their team, so I don't think that marquee matchup was ready for week one. Maybe they'll get something
yeah,
down. Obviously, they're going to play each other, but maybe
yeah,
closer down
yeah,
down the
exactly.
line. So Bills would have
Yeah,
been my choice of a cool one if but there's a lot of what ifs with the Bills right now. So I think the NFL got it right.
yeah. In the AFC, I can't see another team besides the Bills being one that would be most interesting to go up against KC. I'm most excited to see Taylor Swift again. Prime time. It's going to be super fun, right?
She's doing the national anthem.
Is she?
I think so.
seriously?
Yeah. No,
You're
I think I
kidding.
read that somewhere. They got permission
Oh,
permission from the Chiefs, and
oh
she's
my
going to be
god!
singing the national
Who
anthem.
fucking
Oh
cares?
my
Whatever.
god.
Yeah, no, it's
Love it.
um, fifth time in 8 years. I mean, when the Pats were winning every other
Yeah.
year, right? It was the same thing. So we got fed up that time around too. Fourth
Fourth
time,
time.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
fourth
who's
time
counting?
in the
Not
last
us.
8 years. Yeah.
So like when the Pats were winning every other year too, it's the same thing. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
at least you root for Mahomes a little bit more than I did for Brady. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a very good game. It's going to be. I'm interested to see how Derrick Henry does in that offense. And it's going to be the first time we see that, so it's going to be very interesting to see. Yeah, it's going to be definitely a game I'm going to obviously tune into for sure.
Yeah, so the rest of the schedule will be released Wednesday evening. I even saw today the Bears are going to play the Commanders, so that's going to be really cool.
Yeah,
Caleb versus Jaden. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the marquee matchups and when they will be. And I think Nak, you mentioned in our group chat Tom Brady's first game for
Yeah, it's
Fox with Kevin Burkhardt will
Dallas
be
at Browns 420
Dallas at
425
Browns.
slot.
Right, right.
two fucking
There you go.
turds.
So
Who said that?
we'll be losing. We'll be, we'll be we'll be losing Greg Olson. So we'll see how Brady does after the epic
Yeah,
roast
I'm gonna miss that guy.
that he's had.
Nikki
I still
Glazer
haven't watched it.
fucking killed it. She fucking destroyed that
Good.
whole set. Everybody else, that guy, Cliff Chick or something, whatever his name is there, he was good too. But Nikki Glazer just ruined everybody, man.
She was very
Yeah,
good. She was very, and she's been on like going
Yes.
everywhere. She
yeah,
was on McAfee. She was on Rich
yep,
Eisen, and her new HBO special just came out. I think it was last
yeah.
night. So I can't wait to watch that. So she's like, she kind of like just exploded in the last 2 weeks after that roast.
Shout out to Nikki Glazer. Hope she's listening. She's not. She's not listening. You never know.
You never know.
She's not listening.
So as mentioned, we're gonna be answering some lingering, burning questions again post draft, pre camp. A little bit of a slow period from a NFL news standpoint, but thought it'd be a good time to take stock and answer some of the burning questions that we have. Think of it as an internal mailbag. So I'll start it off. Been a lot of hype around Anthony Richardson. He had a really strong and impressive first 3 games, and he got injured. I think 2 out of his first 3 games. Are you guys buying the hype of Anthony Richardson as a top 5 QB in fantasy? Factoring in Yahoo has AR as the 6th ranked QB ahead of Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, and Kyler Murray. What do you guys think? Fab.
I think he definitely has top five upside. I think we've seen that in the little, very, very, very small sample size we saw last year. The type of play that he has and the way that he just plays the game, the way that he runs and all that, it's going to lead to more injury scare. I think if you're targeting Anthony Richardson, you better have a really good QB stable, because the expectation of him playing the full slate of the season, I think, is a little bit ridiculous. And I want the guy to succeed. And the offense is looking very interesting this year because they added Donnie Mitchell too, and they've always had a pretty solid offensive line. And then Jonathan Taylor's going to be back for the whole season as well. So there's a lot of
Well,
reasons to be excited about Anthony Richardson. I mean, he's always going to come with that asterisk of the injury issue, right? But the guy plays the whole season. He's going to get you like 700, 600 rushing yards on top of everything else that he's doing, and he's going to be top five upside, easy, easy.
yeah, and look, I don't know, to your comment on you better have a staple. If he's ranked top 6, you're not going to have any staple before you take a chance at picking Richardson, right? Like there's even in a 2 QB league like us, like there's no way you've picked one QB and he's available for you again in the next round. I think he's gone unless you're gonna double dip and hope like go QB and get him. I think that's the only way
Yeah,
you get him and have kind of a staple. Personally, look, the QBs you mentioned behind him that you saw. I heard Jordan Love. I think I'm taking Love before him. He's just more. You saw it last year. He was durable, and that last 10 game stretch was incredible. Kyler Murray. I'm taking Kyler Murray before him, even though he's got some injury problems as well, and like possibly like Joe Burrow before him too. Like I don't know. He's more proven. He's more okay. He's injury prone too, but like to Fab's point, he has that upside to be in that top, 8, I think, conversation. But are you really going to spend that high, and someone's going to take him high. That's the other thing. Like someone's
Yeah,
going to take a chance on him
Yes, for
high, and
sure.
you're going to have to live with it. Like it's either going to be a beautiful pick or he plays 8 games and it sucks. But I don't know. I'm not that comfortable putting him in that top 6 slot just yet.
It's funny. Burrow and AR, two QBs who have injuries that are very concerning for quarterbacks. They were saying Burrow's QB, his wrist injury was like a it's an injury that not many QBs have
yeah.
ever had. So he had to like tap into linebackers and offensive linemen. So I think that one's an interesting one too. I still love Joe Burrow. I love the way he plays. Um, it's akin to the rush to pick Justin Fields last year, and like the first 2 years. If I'm being frank, there was a big rush to pick him, and to be quite frank, I don't think we've seen enough to know is AR actually a really good player out of the pocket. Yes, the rushing success is there, but at some point the rushing success it fades down, and you need to be able to rely on your arm. At least the way I pick QBs, I want them to be able to throw the ball. I know I just can't ultimately rely on someone who's just going to run the ball 20, 30 times, because it's not always sustainable, A, and B, it leads to injury. So for me personally, I'm out on him as a top five QB in fantasy within his position. And I agree with Knack, like Jordan Love, even Dak, Kyler for sure. Fab, I saw you rolling your eye,
It,
maybe not rolling your eyes, but you
you
like,
know what it is? You look at the guys who are going to finish top five QB. What do they all have in common? They rush, right? And I'm not saying that he's going to again like it. If you're looking if you're asking me if he has top five outside, 100% he does, because he has that rushing upside, because he's going to get you those extra yards, and because he's going to get you those touchdowns with his legs. And if again, big if obviously, and if he does play the full slate of games, I think more likely than not he does finish with a top five ending in the season. His ceiling is very high. His floor is also very low. He's super high risk, super high reward. Not discounting that. You get this guy
yeah,
on the turn in a two QB league when you drafted. I don't know.
it's
You drafted Jordan Love in the first round. Then the second round, he's still there at the 10-9 spot or whatever it is, like 11-12 spot.
Honestly, I'll give
but
someone else.
but
I'll
that's
give
but
someone
that's
else
what
the headache. I think. And
but that's what Nak is saying. I agree with Nak. I don't think that situation will arise. And B, so like top five QB finish in fantasy would equate to what, like second round in a two QB draft. Like I would probably rather wait and get Kyler later, knowing that the rushing upside could
Yeah,
still be there.
I think we're putting too much
Yeah,
stock in rushing upside. I
yeah, I
think
think so
these
too.
rankings need to like pump the brakes a bit. Like the guy's played 3 games and he's been hurt. In 67% of them. So I don't know where we get these rankings sometimes of like, okay, QB rushing upside. It's like not all QBs. Like Mahomes rushes for 400 yards a year and he's in the top 5 almost every year, arguably, right? Like who finished top 5 last year? Brock Purdy. He doesn't rush all that much, but like to Roger's point, you need a guy who's going to be able to throw the ball down the field and rack up those touchdowns. Yes, that 700 rushing yards is good, but if the guy finishes the year with, I don't know, 2,800 or 3,000 passing yards with you know eh, 15 TDs and he's got 700 rushing yards. Jordan Love, a guy like Jordan Love and Kyler Murray with more TD upside, I find are finishing ahead of him, right? So
Yeah,
I think there's too many big question marks for me to pick someone that high with the ranking that he's given at the moment. As I said, I'll let someone else handle that headache, and if it works out for them, great. But I think there's better options where you have more of a for sure. I guess.
so you're
yeah,
taking.
for
Hold on
sure.
a
I
second. You're
think
taking Brock Purdy over Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
You're taking Kirk Cousins.
100%. 100%.
Kirk Cousins over
Yeah.
Richardson, probably.
Depends which round for me.
Like
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
probably rather wait to
technically,
get
I
to Cousins.
am only because in in my opinion, Richardson's gone within the first 2 rounds. So like
Yeah,
we already know our draft order. I'm picking first. If I go a QB first, let's say I pick Josh Allen,
Which you will.
like there's no way 20 picks later AR is available to me.
you will.
And if even if he is, I'm picking twice and then not again for another 20 picks. Like, am I really going to spend that draft capital on AR rather than maybe a wide receiver? And
It
I don't
depends
know.
on where
I don't
you're
know.
at, but
I just
he could be
we'll have
that
to do.
lottery
I
pick.
don't think
Well,
he's
He
there.
could be that
I
lottery pick.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. If he for me, I don't think he's in within my reach. Like
No.
for sure, I just don't think he's in my reach at all, and I'm happy
See,
about that because I don't have to have that.
realistically, he might be in my
look,
reach on the second round on the way back because I'm picking sixth. So you might be at the top end of the second round, and he might be there. So that's why I'm
Maybe.
very I'm honed in on this discussion because this is a real life scenario for me.
look. Basically, Fab, you're basically, and maybe I'll end with this. We'll move on. You're basically hoping he's Cam Newton, like rookie year Cam Newton, where like he just came on a scene, destroyed it. Because if he's not, like, if he's Justin Fields, like, sure, that's to statistically still a good year fantasy wise, but it's very
Yeah,
roller coaster. Like, you're not going to be able to rely on everything, on a lot. And as a second round pick, for me, that's too rich for my blood. Let's stick with QBs. Another QB who I think had a rough 2023, and he played a lot of most of the season, but I think everyone agrees for the most part probably had the worst supporting cast in the NFL. Bryce Young. What do you guys think Bryce Young's floor for 2024 is with the new weapons? Xavier Leggett, Jonathan Brooks, as well as some improved offensive line play. Knack.
Yeah, so you missed a pretty big piece that he got also in the offseason, which is they traded for Deontay Johnson. So they
Yes,
have
yes, Deontay Johnson,
a
of course.
bona fide number one there. Um, look, he didn't look good his first season. Let's just say at that. Supporting cast or not, he didn't look great. He showed flashes, but he didn't look great. Um, I think the added weapons is for sure going to help. And as we know, look, we don't really want to judge a QB before completion of year three. We want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I mean, look, the knock on him was that he was too small, right? And it kind of showed last year. Like you saw he played small, right? Um, right now, for me, if it was going into a draft, uh, I wouldn't draft him. He'd be my QB3 at the moment. Like, there's no way I would trust him to even be my QB2 right now. I think, as I was checking, I think they have him rated. They have him rated as QB 29 right now on the list. So that would be that would be
Jesus.
back. So he's
yeah.
behind Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, JJ McCarthy, Carr, Levis, and Geno Smith. Not
Even Bo Nix.
no, Bo Nix is behind him. They right behind him is Drake May, Bo Nix, and Justin Fields.
Oh my.
Guys, he didn't look good last year, right? And even like from fantasy perspective, he didn't look great last year.
Nak, do we like the talent, or do we just not like the supporting cast or coaching, or is it a bit
Look,
of both?
and the coach that they have is Canales, right? Didn't they hire it was Canales that they hired?
Yeah,
So he
Canales. Yeah,
revived not
from
only
Tampa.
Baker Mayfield's career, but Geno Smith's career. So
Hmm.
if there's a guy that's going to be able to
Good
maybe
point.
help him out with now a supporting cast, it's Canales. So I think that's a great move on their end from snagging that coach. Um, I'm just look from what I saw last year and what else is available as trying to get a QB1 and QB2. Like again, he goes to my QB3 list with something to prove, right? Like I want to see something before I'm all in on Bryce Young personally.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't disagree. For me, Bryce Young, he's a QB2 with upside, low end QB2. If he pulls it together this year and actually just takes a bit of a step forward, he can give you some every week QB2 action. I do like the additions. We mentioned Deontay Johnson. I think that is a huge part of the component. It's going to have some guy that's going to be his number one target the whole time and sure hands and all that stuff. Um, I mean, the drafting of Jonathan Brooks is also going to be very helpful. Xavier Leggett's going to be very helpful. There's still Adam Thielen there. And Adam Thielen, we forget, right? There was a stretch where Adam Thielen was like wide receiver one last year. So Bryce Young has shown flashes that he can be reliable to a degree. At the same time, though, like, proceed with caution. But if I end the draft and he's my QB2 in a two quarterback league, I'm not super excited. Like, the rest of my team better be stacked, but I do think there
no.
is a there's
Who's your QB3 after? You know what I
well,
mean? Like
that's
if
it. That's why I'm
Bryce
saying,
Young's your
like, the rest of my
Yeah,
team
QB2, like
better
who the
be
hell's your
fucking
QB3?
stacked if he's my QB2. Like,
That means you have a backup as a
yeah,
QB3.
Yeah, that or I just didn't feel like starting Daniel Jones that week. Like either way.
Do we trust? Do we trust David? I do this all the time. David Carr. Do we trust Derek Carr over Bryce Young?
Right now, I do, man. Like his numbers are average, but dude, look at it. Look, his numbers weren't great. I'm sorry, but Bryce Young's numbers weren't
As
great.
QB
I
twos,
would,
as a QB
you know,
two, as a
Oh, I'd
QB
rather
two,
have Carr. I'd
because
rather
yeah,
have
he has a
Carr than
higher
Bryce Young.
floor. He has a higher floor. I would, I would be more. I fucking hate Derek Carr. Like I would rather roll the dice with Bryce, with Bryce Young, just because like
yeah, that's what
there
I'm
is that bit
thinking
of a
too.
higher upside. There is, like Derek
There's
Carr.
100% higher
Derek Carr.
upside.
It's like if dude, if Derek Carr is my QB2 going into the season, like I'm not looking forward to my weekends. I'm not like
No,
not. Roger knows.
I do know I'm very well versed
If
in
the guy
the
the guy
Derek Carr
threw the
stock,
guy had
and
one
I've
game
heard,
with three or more touchdowns. Sorry, not even more. Three touchdowns in the last like 5 years, where he threw for three touchdowns. Every game, it's been one touchdown or two, one or two, one or two. It's like it's like binary. It's like 0-1, 0-1. It's fucking
yeah.
ridiculous. And like and I had
I
Olave
think
last
for
year. It pissed me off because Olave had put up better numbers when Jameis Winston was playing.
yes, yeah, that like
Gunslinger.
Yeah,
one or two series Winston came in right away. I think for Bryce, it's I agree with both of you. It's very hard to be optimistic on Bryce, even if we may like the weapons, we may like the talent. It's a more of a like we have to see it to believe it, and that's where I agree. Like naturally, he has to be a QB3. Like you can't go into the season being optimistic. He may surprise us with the Canales move, with the new offensive weapons. I think the offensive line being improved. That's the biggest thing for a small QB is you need better guard
yeah.
play because they're not going to be able to see right down the middle, right? And he's going to play shotgun a lot, so I think that's going to have an impact. But I'd be hard pressed to say, hey, I'm going into the season being super excited for Bryce Young. Sticking in the NFC, another burning question that we had. Wide receiver two was not really addressed for the Lions, and as a matter of fact, they lost Josh Reynolds, and they didn't draft any depth to fill the position. So naturally, Jameson Williams, who he's entering his third year. Oftentimes, the third year is the big year for the for wide receivers. No injury or suspension prior to camp. Firmly entrenched as the WR2 there. He's considered the 55th ranked wide receiver on Yahoo pre-draft rankings. But Fab, I'm curious what you think about Jameson Williams. Could he be a decent flyer as a WR3 with sneaky low end WR2 potential?
I don't think so. I think where he's ranked appropriately. I think because you got to figure who's on the Detroit Lions that's going to be looking for targets. It's not just Amon Ross St. Brown. There's also Sam Laporte over there who's going to probably he's going to be there
Some
for
Laporta. Yeah.
probably the second in line for targets. Then you have Jameer Gibbs. So and I think
Hmm.
they're going to involve Jameer Gibbs a lot more in the offense this year than last year. I think the last year they had a bit of the training wheels on him, so you could think of him as much more of a do-it-all type of player. You're going to see him in a lot more type of design roles. I feel Jameis Winston, he was a first round pick. He was 12th overall.
He's a
Yeah,
12th
there was a lot that
overall.
came
Yeah.
with him. He did show flashes last year and even his rookie year too, as well. Sorry, I just
Didn't he have that
yeah,
sick run against the Niners in the playoffs,
yeah,
like 41
yeah.
yard touchdown?
Like scenarios like that where there's just they're flashes. There's no consistency yet. So because of that, he's a wide receiver four at best for me. I'm not expecting him to make the jump, and if he does, it's going to be similar to maybe Josh Reynolds' numbers last year when he was on the Detroit Lions. Um, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't expect your
Interesting.
typical year three jump from a wide receiver with him. Not not because of whatever reason, but I don't see the consistency there, and because there is a bit of a crowded room when it comes for there's a lot of mouths to feed, quite a bit, and we saw Sam Laporta come out of nowhere last year. Not come out of nowhere, but a rookie tight end put up those type of numbers in an offense that already existed with some in an offense that threw a lot. He carved out a big chunk for himself. I don't see that going away anytime soon, and I think that's going to just leave a lot less for Jameson Williams.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely agree on the Sam Laporta, um, the Sam Laporta he's probably going to be the WR2 numbers guy anyways, like with his targets and his share and stuff like that. On the Jamison Winston, he had 24 catches last year, man, in year two. He did miss some time. He was suspended, but 24 catches. He was averaging what, one or two a game, something like that, like down the stretch. He's the big play guy. Like I don't see him being that number two that you count on week in and week out. To Fab's point, they do involve the running backs a lot. Between Montgomery and Gibbs, they caught 70 balls together last year, so that's a nice chunk. And we're both injured, so I expect that number to rise, right? Closer to that 100 catch mark combined, if not more, for both running backs. I think they're going to be more part of the offense, but also there's still time to fill that void, either with a trade or there's always roster cuts that happen in camp, and maybe they snag a guy that could help them out. Um, I'm, Again, to your point, I think it's going to be more of an association with Khalif and Jameson as your WR3, with Laporta commanding more of the targets along the lines of a wide receiver two guy.
The only thing about Williams is he does provide something that's different than the other wide receivers that are there. Like he's the clear deep threat guy,
Yep.
right? So I think there's some upside on that front. They have a great offensive line. They're able to do big play action, deep shots. Josh Reynolds, I think, had 40 receptions last year, so those do have to be replaced. Could they be replaced with Laporta or Gibbs? Yes, but I think this is their time. They have to see what they have in the 12th overall pick. If not, it's basically going to be seen as a wasted pick. So in that sense, I think it was a bit of a optimistic question, like WR3 no, but I could see him being an interesting bench flyer and someone that you spend fab money on because he had like a really impressive like 2 week stretch. I think the talent is still there. He went to Bama, wide receiver U. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
the key the better wide receiver use in college. So I could see some upside there, and it's a creative offense, right? Ben Johnson, he knows how to get people open, and there's a ton of talent there. So I think I would tread lightly in terms of overdrafting him, but I think he could be an interesting depth target for a fantasy roster.
Yeah. The problem is he's like a boomer bust
Sticking
guy
in the
per week, right?
NFC North, yeah, for sure. I mean, those types of guys, they are definitely going to be boomer bust. But the speed is there. Like, look, if he can have, like, we talk about the Steelers a lot, and we're gonna have a question about the Steeler wide receiver core. But if he could have a George Pickens type season, I think that'd be a big win for the Lions, right? Like again, speed, athleticism,
100%.
hit the deep routes. Like it's not inconceivable. And Goff could rip it.
Yeah.
Like he can make those throws. As much as sometimes I have apprehension about him, he's been a really good quarterback, and he did sign an extension
Yes.
this year.
Props to
So
Goff. Very
recent,
good. Very happy for the guy,
yeah,
honestly.
Massive, second highest
in,
paid.
Yeah.
in yeah, indeed. Sticking in the NFC North, where are we drafting Jordan Love in two QBs? So two QB leagues. So we talked about AR. We saw how AR was ranked sixth in Yahoo Fantasy rankings ahead of Jordan Love. Love is someone who I really enjoy watching. I really enjoyed his performance against Dallas in the playoffs. And even the second half, he absolutely
Killed it.
killed it. I
Yeah.
think he was the highest touchdown passer in the second half
Yep.
last year. So for me, Love is someone who I have him in that like fifth QB range between him and like CJ Stroud. I think if you wanted to pick him over Joe Burrow just because of the injury concerns, the fact that he did rush for 4 touchdowns, I think he had about 400 and something yards rushing. I could see him being the fifth, sixth ranked QB heading into next year. And that wide receiver core, which will be a follow up question I have for you guys, but I really think that wide receiver core is ready to explode. Names that aren't super well known right now, but I think there's a lot of guys there who are interchangeable,
Yeah.
a lot of speed, and they've added also to the running back room. So curious where you guys think Jordan Love might
I
go.
think he's a firmly entrenched as QB1, period. Like, I think he's going to be somewhere. He should go most likely top six, top seven, somewhere in that range. but I think he's going to give you solid QB1 numbers every single week. We saw that last year. We always preach about how we want QBs to sit and develop over time. We finally saw that happen with Jordan Love, right? And you can see it paying dividends now. I don't think anyone thought he was going to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, but he did. And he really turned it on the second half of the season. And you can see that wide receiver room being so electrifying and exciting. And I would have no issues going into my season with Jordan Love as my QB1, without a doubt. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you guys remember at the
So
beginning of
so he's
last
a first
year.
rounder in 2 QB leagues for you.
It depends how many QBs go in the first round. I think he might. I think he might squeeze into the first round. I think more realistic, top of the second. If you just name out the top 5 QBs, is he a top 5 QBs and we drafted top 5? I don't think so. Can he finish as a top 5 QB? Sure, but you want to rank out the top 5. You want to talk about
It's
the QBs that are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Allen, Hurts,
well,
Jackson,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Mahomes. Those are 4, and then after that, Joe Burrow.
Hurts is not in my top five.
On a fantasy perspective, you got to give it to him just because of that tush push stuff.
Nah, Jason Kelsey just retired.
I understand that.
I don't think they're doing that as
I
much.
understand that, but it's
I don't think
still.
they're
I
doing that
think
as
it's
much,
still
man.
baked into his rankings a bit.
Yeah, let the rankings do what they want, but he's not in my top five. Again, I don't have to worry about that really where I'm drafting this year. But
Were you drafting again? I don't think
um,
you mentioned it.
first overall, yeah, first overall. In case you guys weren't listening before, um, Jordan Love, I'm not going to get him obviously, but I would have loved to have Jordan Love as my QB1 for sure. Remember, I don't know, last year early on in the season, everyone was like, "Oh, this guy's a bust. This guy's a bust. He's done," and then just kind of destroyed the second half of the year, which was insane. Um, so yeah, man, and that, like you said, Roger, that supporting cast is just getting better and better, and it's poised to be insanely better this year. Hopefully, a guy like Christian Watson can stay healthy. I know Dobbs also missed a few games last year too, but those two rookies that they drafted last year in Wicks and Reed um, look good.
Yeah, so who do you guys think has the highest upside of those guys? Like they're all a bit different. Like Watson's more of the ball winner, red zone guy. I had Jaden Reed in the Bush League, who he was super fun to have. Like 64 receptions, 800 yards receiving, 8 TDs. He had like 100 and almost 200 yards rushing and 2 rushing TDs. There's Wicks, who a lot of people have compared to Devontae Adams. I've seen a lot of that comparison. Like he's going to be like the elite route runner type. And then there's Dobbs too, who he was kind of the darling 2 years ago when the first year Adams was gone. A lot of people were saying Dobbs is going to be the guy who eats the most there. Is there one guy that you guys like in particular? Because I think this could be an interesting topic for people who like Love but aren't sure. Coming up to that like WR2, WR3, like who's going to be the guy there that you can most rely upon?
It's going to be like I would target Jalen Reed if I had to choose between one of the 4 you just mentioned. However, I'm not necessarily jumping off my chair for these guys because I don't know. To your point, you mentioned you just rang off a bunch of guys. Plus, there's Josh Jacobs in there, and don't forget about Luke Musgrave, who also targets as well.
Yeah, the
So
tight ends are good too.
there again, a lot of mouths to feed, and Jordan Love's going to have a great season. But I don't know if there's going to be one clear cut guy that's going to be head and shoulders above everybody else. Again, Christian Watson's going to command the touchdowns. Jalen Reed's going to go for more of that Debo Samuel type of gadget player.
Yeah,
But
that's a
Romeo
great
Dobbs
call.
is also super interesting, and he's I guess he's more that possession receiver. So because of that, maybe Jaden Reed as a wide receiver 3, I'm comfortable with. I dropped him, and then you picked him up last year, and I was kind of pissed about that. I had no room for him on my roster, but he was just churning out solid numbers every single week. He was just getting chunk yardage on rushing, and every now and then he would catch like a huge touchdown pass. Like it was just he was fun to have, and it's an exciting offense. It's an
Yeah,
exciting offense to follow. But again, if I had to choose one of them, I think I'd go Jaden Reed.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with the read. Thing is to your point, I'm not also going to be jumping off my chair to draft any of these guys really high just because they've all missed time with injuries too. So
Yes.
there's that issue.
Very
So
good
it's
point.
like okay, when one's down, then the other guy kind of, you know, takes point. Jaden Reed definitely did come on towards the end of the season, which was nice to see. But again, now there is a Josh Jacobs there, younger than who's the guy that was there last year, Aaron
Aaron
Jones.
Jones.
So
Aaron Jones.
younger kind of version. So I think they're going to feed him early and often. So again, there's that aspect to it, and what Fab said as well is the tight ends. They have really good tight ends as well there. So there is a lot of ways they could spread the ball. I don't think there's going to be that like commanding number one guy that's like far and away their WR1 on the team. That's going to just like I think it's going to be pretty consistent. Obviously, you're going to have players with a little bit more than others, but I think it's going to be pretty consistent
You're going to have to
in
pick
terms
the
of
right guy the right week. That's what it's going to have to be. Yeah.
exactly,
So you're going to have to
exactly.
wait for injuries or whatever it is and wait for guys to go on by and be like, okay, he has an upside shot over here. He has a good matchup here, but it's not going to be a week by week thing. It's not going to be an every week thing. It's going to be on a week by week basis.
Yeah, and don't forget Marshawn Lloyd, who's also they drafted the rookie running back they drafted, who's slated to be a big pass catcher too on the team.
Love Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah. So speaking of wide receivers, we're going to move back to the AFC North. This is one question I had. A lot of hype on Roman Wilson. Are we sure George Pickens ends up leading the Steelers in receptions next year? Knack.
If the season started today, without 100%, without a doubt, he's leading the team in receptions. Um, when Deontay Johnson went down, I know there's other players on the team, but he commanded kind of the ball. Finished with 18 yards per catch last year, which was tops in the league. He is a big play threat guy, and the Steelers tend to ease in their rookies more than other teams. This year is gonna be, like you said, a little bit more fascinating just because they don't have that, that WR2 guy. But the thing is it's kind of similar situation to what the Lions kind of have right now, right? But I mean, for to look at it right now and say that Pickens is not going to lead the team, bearing injury, he's leading. Like who else you see besides Roman Wilson? Like they have Van Jefferson, they have what Pat Fryermuth, they have a couple running backs in the in the backfield. I don't think there's any chance that he doesn't lead the team in
Wow.
receptions. There's zero chance.
The reason why I brought this up is typically the leading receiver of the Steelers, like reception wise, isn't the type of archetype that George Pickens is. If we've seen Hines Ward, Deontay Johnson, obviously Antonio Brown. There's always been a possession receiver and a deep threat guy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nat.
Mm,
That's always been kind of the
oh,
formula.
for
There's
sure.
always like a so and I think it's an interesting topic because I think I like Roman Wilson, Michigan guy. I see him as a potential like who has the most likelihood to have a Puka Nakua type year, a guy who's tough, runs good routes, could snag the ball, could get touchdowns. I see Roman Wilson having like a sneaky good year, high upside type year. So that's the reason why I thought it would be interesting to see,
Yeah.
Pickens versus Wilson. Obviously, I agree with you. Like as of now, it's hard to bet against the rookie, but new
Oh, it's easy to bet
QB.
against the rookie.
Yeah.
It's easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it's easy bet against him. But new QB Wilson, we know he likes the deep shots. We know he's not the most refined passer in the intermediate. I think he most likely relies on picking on deep passes, but we'll see how he fares with Wilson. But I thought that could be an interesting one if you're going to take a flyer on a rookie wide
And he's
receiver.
also practicing with the route god Pickens this summer. So
Oh,
he's sharpening
I
he's
thought you're gonna.
sharpening up his route running. So hopefully that opens up another avenue for him, basically. But again, I from what they have right now, I'm not
Mhm.
saying a trade is not out of the question right now. And if they would have
Yeah,
traded for a guy like Ayuk or Debo Samuel, then I think this question would have had a little bit more merit. and a little bit more like, yeah, there's definitely a chance that he may lead in yards, he may lead in touchdowns, but not in catches. You know, Deontay Johnson's always led in catches, so I just think he takes a huge step this year too. He's also a wide receiver on year number 3.
Hmm.
Yeah. Fab?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think it's gonna. I think a lot of it's gonna come down to who Russell Wilson likes more, as well. Like there might be that Wilson to Wilson connection. You never know. He might be targeting him a little bit more often than not. But Raj, you did mention how he is the deep threat guy. You know, I saw like some reception projection for like 78 receptions for Pickens.
For Pickens?
So it's not super hard to beat. Depends on. I think it depends on what the QBs feel at the time. But at the same time, you're betting it.
But I'm saying who's going to beat that? Like who on
It
the
would be
team right now
Roman
is going to
Wilson,
beat 78
100%. It would be
receptions?
Roman Wilson. Honestly, if it is going to be someone, it would be him, and it would be by
If he
virtue
gets
of
the 60, I'd be
yeah,
surprised.
by virtue of Russell Wilson
Personally,
targeting him more than George Pickens, not necessarily because he's getting more open or whatever the case may be, right? I think it might have to come more to those types of factors because he's a rookie coming into an established wide receiver room with George Pickens already the alpha dog there, right? So
and he's also a slot guy.
And
yeah,
but yes, but we've seen rookie wide receivers make a big
of
jump
course.
last year. Like
Yeah.
obviously Nakua, Tank Dell, a
Well,
lot of
and it's
rookies
And
have come in and
but
done
but
really well right off the bat.
McVay gives his shot. Like I'm just saying, like watching the Steelers all my life, they ease in all their rookies. So like I don't even
Mhm.
see him playing 100% of the snaps from Wilson like to start, even with the the wide receiver room they have right now, right? Like
yeah,
That's
they don't.
concerning
Yeah,
then.
of course it is, and I hope it changes because there is no other guy there. There are a lot of reporters saying that this could be the year where that guy comes in right away and makes an immediate impact. And God, guys, I'm definitely hoping that's the case. But they always seem to shelter their rookies. They did it with Broderick Jones last year on the offensive line, and he was lights out compared to Dan Moore there. They also did it with Joey Porter Jr. last year on as a cornerback, and he was the best cornerback on the team, and
Yeah.
he only started as of I think it was week 8 or week 7. So that's the issue is that they like to kind of ease them in instead of throwing them out there. But this is the year where
They
that
should have eased in Kenny Pickett. They should have eased in Kenny Pickett.
they did
or not
technically.
even
He
draft
didn't
him.
start. He didn't start. It was
The
Trubisky.
guy's just not.
Trubisky,
Yeah,
Trubisky just
it's
did
true.
really,
Yeah,
really, really bad that they had to make a change.
it's true.
Technically, they didn't
Yeah,
start him, right?
Imagine you go
yeah,
from
it's
Kenny
true.
Pickett to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in an offseason. And the best part is that not a single Steelers fan thought that would have happened. Like not never mind like
No, I didn't believe
yeah,
it.
well
I didn't
that
believe it.
it's completely out of fucking left field, man.
I didn't believe we were going to get either of them, and to get both was just
Out of
I don't know.
nowhere.
Again, I don't.
Did you
That's
guys see the stories that
RKO,
came out
man.
of that came today? Did you guys see the stories today about
Being a
Justin
bad
Fields
teammate,
saying, yeah, they're saying how he's a bad teammate, how Nick Foles and who was the other backup QB, Andy Dalton, like they actually wanted to mentor
Dalton.
him, and he said, yeah, there was Dalton. I think
In
Dalton was there
Chicago.
for a period. There was,
I don't.
yeah, there was
Oh yes,
two
yeah, yeah.
for sure. There was
Yeah,
Nick
I
Nick
think
Foles
he
Foles.
is
was.
there.
Yeah, there was Nick Foles. Yeah. Anyways, whoever the second QB was, I think it was Dalton. He didn't want to be mentored. They were trying to show him like stuff during a meeting, and he had his head down. One reporter was saying how Dalton and like the QBs would always like hang out together, be walking, like, and he would be like 15 yards away, like just didn't want to walk with him. So
See, this is
interesting
remember
stuff. That's
when we had that conversation right before he was traded, and they were saying like how all of his teammates loved him, and
Yeah.
like all of his players were
Yeah.
advocating for him, and I told you like it's because he plays for them. Like they're not going to say anything bad about Justin Fields, and then all of a sudden, look, now he's gone, he's out of town, and little stuff starts trickling out that no, wait, he really was a bad teammate. So it's like, what do you believe
yeah.
in the end, like with this stuff, you know?
That and like now like all the Bears players love
Yeah, of
Caleb. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
course.
like
It's
all
the
that Holly,
teammate,
they're
right?
like, oh, the
It's their
Hollywood
teammate.
stuff, like he has to remove the Hollywood stuff, and now like, oh yeah, he has great anticipation, like he gets it, like
It's their
okay.
teammate.
Yeah. Draft strategy question about running backs and QBs. Is there enough top end running back talent to bypass QBs in the first three rounds in two QB leagues?
In the first, sorry,
Nah, yeah, in the first 3 rounds. Like let's say you want to go running back, running back, wide receiver. This could be a wide receiver question as well. Um,
The
go for
the
it.
problem is with me is that especially in a two QB league, that QB is just super super valuable. So for me, the way I look at it, if there's an abundance more good wide running backs available, I'll tend to go even more of a zero running back strategy than say, hey, let's stack up on Christian McCaffrey and then I don't know on the turn or wherever get I don't know Kyron Williams or something, and you really want to stack and have like then what are you left with as a QB in round three, right? You're starting to get into your kind of tier
Bryce
two,
Young.
not Bryce Young in round three, but I mean you're not gonna get your star, right? Like you really want that number one QB. So for me, yeah, I think there is a lot more than even last year. And last year that zero running back strategy worked even last year, but this year there's even more running backs available. So I think I tend to wait even more for a running back and not have to like
Who's top end for you though? Like when I mean top end, like if you're gonna bypass QB, is like Gibbs, Brees Hall,
CMC, Brees Hall,
CMC.
Gibbs.
Is that where it stops
Jonathan
for
Taylor.
you? Like where does it stop?
Nah, no, I'm not taking
Like
Jonathan
James
Taylor.
Cook,
He's not. I
Kyron?
feel like he's not in James Cook before
No,
QB. Nah,
no,
no chance, no chance. Not even Kyron Williams, man. Like
no. If you asked me that
I'm,
question about Kyron Williams 2 weeks
I'm
ago, I would have said yes, but no, not
It's
anymore.
because the problem is there's like two or three guys or four guys, like call it five even, okay, that are like high end top guys. Like you get this guy, he's the beast, right? But the drop off after is so drastic in a way that if I'm not getting, I don't know who's the net, like if I'm not getting a Derrick Henry, I can get someone. Give you an example. I don't know,
Rashad
Austin
White.
Eckler?
maybe like a Rashad White and exactly like a guy like that, and it's like he's kind of in the same tier, right? So it's like I'm not overspending for a guy that I could kind of similarly get later on in the draft, as opposed to losing out on that QB because you're not going to get that bona fide guy week in week one starter. You're going to find yourself in a position where, oh, you know what, I do have Bryce Young as my wide receiver, my QB2, and I'm not happy about it, but oh, I have CMC and you know
Fab, I'm curious your thoughts because did you draft Jonathan Taylor?
I did not draft him. I traded
Remind me, did
for
you have
him.
no?
I
You
traded for
traded for
him. I
him,
did
right? Okay,
draft
yeah, okay.
for running backs. I drafted Tony Pollard. That worked out great. Pollard?
Pollard,
Pollard? How do you pronounce it? Doesn't matter. He's not on my team anymore.
Pollard.
I drafted him last year as my
Carry on.
running back one. I'm sure like a lot of other people did too. And like in the second round after I drafted Justin Herbert in the first round. And yeah, yeah,
Well, that's
I
interesting. So,
go
so
ahead.
let me like. I, I would. Would you rather have? You'd still take Herbert over drafting Gibbs or
So last
Bijan?
year, it Herbert up until he got injured was doing very well. Towards the end of the season, after he got injured, my team tanked. Was Herbert the right call at that spot? No. The right call at that spot was Christian McCaffrey for me. And this year, I'm drafting sixth overall again. If I'm there at six and the top five quarterbacks are gone, and maybe Justin Jefferson, this might be between Justin Jefferson or CD Lamb and Christian McCaffrey. That's who I'm looking at right now at six. And And it's not because I value running backs over QB, but the drop off from McCaffrey to Hall or Taylor or Bijan or Barkley or Kyron or Gibbs or Henry or Mixon or whoever else you want to say is huge. Is huge, especially in a full PPR league. And
Yeah.
but like
That's if we think McCaffrey's going to have the same workload, which I am not convinced. And are we sure he's also
But
going
the
to be
health, okay,
healthy,
first of
which
all,
I don't
the
see.
healthy question you can apply to any player in the NFL. And Christian McCaffrey in the last 2 years has proven that he can sustain a full workload, full workload. So I don't have
Fair.
any injury concerns about him anymore. Because I was on that same bandwagon. That's why I didn't take him last year. I was like, he's always injured. The guy is not injured that much. And the last 2 years, he wasn't injured at all. And he ripped it. So I would have no issues taking him at 6th overall in the first round. Will I think he's going to be there? I don't think so. I think he's going to go at 5. I think there's going to be someone's going to take him. Who's drafting 5? Someone. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not there at 5. If somebody in our league, because our league has a bunch of characters, decides to pull a fast one and take Travis Kelce or some bullshit. But yeah,
Gee, I wonder who
seriously,
that would be.
no names are being mentioned. But I like Christian Yeah,
Fifth,
sorry. Go ahead, Raj. Who's 5th?
Robbie has fit. Robbie's not
He's
taking
gonna
this year,
take
so
Dak.
he
He's gonna
isn't. He
take
isn't showing his
Dak, and
CMC game.
he's
He's
Or
gonna hate
CD
his
Lamb,
take
life
Dak.
for
CD Lamb or Dak.
CD
Yeah.
Lamb. Like
But look,
he's
look
gonna
at
be on Dak's throat all fucking year.
look at these
Dak's
look at these
chode.
rankings. Like, if you miss out on look, even forget the tier one of CMC, Brees Hall, Bijan Robinson. After you get to tier two, you miss out on guys like Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, Barkley, Kyron Williams. If you wait to tier 4 and 5 after that and load up on, I don't know, wide receivers, get a good second QB, then you start getting into names of Alvin Kamara, Aaron
Yeah.
Jones,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
James
Yes,
Conner,
I agree.
Najee Harris,
Mm,
like a Raheem Mostert,
Eh,
I'm
Javante
not that high on
Williams.
James
Like,
Conner
eh.
this year.
but I'm saying,
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
I'm
you're
yeah,
saying,
losing.
yeah.
You're losing
yeah,
me. You
but
got me,
I'm not that
Nak.
high on James
You
Conner
got
this
me, and
year.
then you
but
start losing me
but
like
but
immediately.
look at, but I'm telling you, I'm saying
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with
my
you.
first running back taken last year was Cam Akers. I know I mentioned this a few times
Yeah,
in the pod, and it was round
yeah,
6, and
yeah,
it was
yeah,
Cam
yeah, yeah.
Akers.
Yes, we know
Dude, the
you
guy
are an
didn't even
after.
play. Like, you know what I
Listen,
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
this
yeah.
is the
it
year.
was a
This
bad.
is the
You
year to
guys,
do
That
the
pick
zero
was
RB
bad.
strategy. This is a good year to do the zero RB
yeah,
strategy because of
But
everything
you're
Knack
telling
just
me
mentioned.
if you get a
Yeah,
Mostert, if you get
yeah.
a Mostert in round 5 as your RB1, and you have CD
mm,
Lamb
not
and
most Cam
another
Akers
wide
2.0.
receiver, like who did I have? I had Ridley and Lamb as my two wide receivers last year.
Nak, your argument's great. I
And then I
agree with
took
you, but
Waddle
most are,
instead. I ended up taking Waddle. So those are my 3 wide receivers, and then, like, my running backs did fine.
yeah.
I didn't need
Mostert's not.
Yeah, I Mostert
But I'm
is an
saying
asterisk. I wouldn't.
you're not gonna cry about it. Like, if I'm getting in that tier 4, tier 5 zone with a 5th round pick for my first running back, I'm saying there's worse things that could
Yeah,
happen
and
than you going
100%.
I
to round
agree.
5. Round 5, what QBs are left in round 5? There's not
Javante
many, right? Like,
Williams.
that's it, running
Oh,
back.
sorry,
QBs, he
QBs.
said.
Yeah,
He said
No, but
so
to your point, Javante Williams, like, he's right now in the tier 5. Nick Chubb is in that tier 5. Like,
yeah, but
sneak and
I
get
think it's
a
because
Nick
Nick
Chubb.
Chubb is not going to start the year
but
though.
because then but guys, then you fall too deep. Like, so you guys know how I feel about like QB first round, second round. I'm slowly coming to your side where I think I'm gonna pick a QB earlier, but I think the running back aspect I would fully agree. Like, and I'm not this year. I don't know Bijan and Brees. Like, I feel like I have to see it before because this feels like Tony
Who's that?
Pollard. You know how we felt. You know how we felt about Tony Pollard
I mean Tony Pollard.
early
Tony
last
Pollard.
year. That's yeah.
Get
Tony
his name right,
Pollard.
Roger.
Yes.
Get-
Pollard.
Pollard.
Robbie's going to come at you in the
Um,
comments. Okay.
that those are the concerns I start to have about Brees, who again, like he had the ACL. He's gonna be 2 years removed out of the ACL. That's fine. Bijan, I know the talent is amazing. I still have some weird PTSD about how he was used last year. Arthur Smith's gone, but still, like, I just kind of want to see it first, right? So more and more, I'm more inclined to say, hey, like, I think the QB, I'd probably pick it in the first 3 rounds. Where Fab, you mentioned where I'd more likely double down on is the
Yeah,
wide
100%.
receivers. Where,
Yeah, yeah.
like, if you have a CD Lamb, if you have a Tyreek, like, if you like Knock, you destroyed me with
Yeah.
CD Lamb, like 40
That's what I'm
burger
saying,
with CD, 40 burger with
I
Josh. You know,
bypassed the running back. And there's how many
yeah,
QBs were used the last 2 years? 60 plus in
Yeah.
the last two
a
years,
ton.
right? So, like, stacking up on those guys. Like a running back, you put in your fab. Like a guy gets injured, you put in fab for him. Like it's that guy is gonna do. How many times do you see a backup running back come in and do the job at par or better? Right? Like there's always that one or two guy that Kyron Williams last
Mhm.
year. Cam Akers went down. Bang! You spent all your money on Kyron Williams, or you put a decent amount on Kyron Williams, and he rode you all the way to where he rode you. He didn't draft Kyron Williams. It's more like it was nothing. Whereas a QB, not many backups in the league can say that they're going to come in and do par or better. You're likely going to do par or worse, right? With a backup QB. That's why I think I put more emphasis on drafting a solid QB room over a running back room, because the running back you could kind of pick up on the fly, and especially with Fab now, where it's like you're not playing you're not in
Yeah,
a
yeah,
line. You could spend whatever you want on a player. If you really want that guy, you can overspend. There's players in your league that are, they want to keep their Fab, or they don't want to overpay on stuff, but it just look, Fab is a perfect example how we found one last year in Kyron Williams, and I'm sure a
yeah.
lot of people won the league with a Kyron Williams, picking him up off waivers.
This is a good discussion, guys. Quickly, last burning question. We'll go quick rapid fire here. Where do you guys draft Deshaun Watson next year in two QB leagues? Considering Jerry Judy, we're not. I know we're not the biggest Jerry Judy fans, and he has a new OC, Ken Dorsey, who was Josh Allen's OC at in Buffalo. Fab.
QB2, and honestly, no, QB3. Like I'm
Oh
not.
yeah.
I mean, he's low end QB2 for me. Like he's one of those guys where you draft at the end where you're stuck between him and like Bryce Young and Derek Carr. I think that's where I'm at right now with him. I'm not super enthused with Deshaun Watson. I know last year everybody was a lot higher on him, myself as well, because figured he might finally get back into the rhythm of things. But I think was that.
I mean,
What kind of
I thought you were
rhythm?
gonna say the rim. I thought you were gonna say the
Are you guys
rim. I
referring
heard
to his
rim.
extracurricular activities outside of
We're,
outside of the
we're
workforce,
The
we
the
workplace?
workplace?
look look look. We're at 55. I was like I want to hit it
Yeah,
under an hour, but
that's what massage
we all
therapist
want
said.
to we all
Oh man.
we want to rub and tug. It was so thank you. We wanted
Yeah,
some rub
so
and
does
tug
Deshaun
vibes,
Watson,
Fab. Thank you.
and
We
also
don't care
Robert
about your
Kraft
fantasy take
apparently.
about Deshaun Watson.
He's Look, he's ranked 21st right now, and like below him you have Baker, Geno Smith, Levis, and Carr. That's what you have below him. Below him. Um, but he's ranked
That's what he
21st.
tried to
Like,
get, and she said no.
again, he's never gonna go back to that top five QB. I'm convinced it's impossible, especially with the talent that there is out there right now. He lost too much time. He's been injured too since he's come back. He missed the better part of almost two full seasons, and he's never been able to gain that momentum after losing that much time. So I think his numbers could be respectable, and he will flirt with those QB2 numbers. Like, if you have Deshaun Watson as your QB2, you just gotta hope he doesn't get hurt, because he's gonna get
Does-
Yes,
fantasy
He does a
points.
lot of
Like,
flirting.
he,
I,
but I'm saying again,
I,
that's one of those guys where he's like on my do not draft list, because he's not he'll never regain. I feel like he'll never
I,
regain that form, and he's just getting older.
I I think he gets. I think if he's healthy, he could get on a heater, and I would bang on him as a as a
Pause.
for me two QB. Him as a second QB is perfect for my type of draft strategy, where I'll wait a little bit on a QB1, wait a little bit on a QB2,
Yes,
knowing that the
I
talent is
agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
talent around him is there. Cooper, Judy,
yeah.
Njoku. We'll see what happens at the running back
If
position.
if
I think a
I'm
new OC is a good
if
thing
I'm
for him. I hope
solidified in
Kevin
my
Stefanski
QB,
takes back play calling, but that Stefanski type offense makes a ton of sense for what's Watson's skill set. So you're taking a flyer on him, but I think if he's healthy, I'm looking at the game log now. He had a really good game again with Tennessee. He had a good game with Arizona. He had a great second half. The Baltimore game, I remember watching that game specifically because I had Cooper. He had a great second half where he led them back. So there were some flashes. He just needs to stay healthy. So that's it for the episode, guys. We hope that these burning questions that we answered were able to help with some key fantasy decisions after the draft, before camp. As always, follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Spotify, as well as YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at the Bush League Huddle. Except on Twitter, it's at the Bush League Huddle without an E. And we thank you very much for continuously listening. Please, if you have any feedback, don't be shy to share it with us on all social media platforms. And we'll see you hopefully next week for some more fantasy takes. Goodbye, everyone.
Peace
Goodbye.
out.